Welcome to Rocket Ship, the home of epic React Native content. I'm Simon Grimm, creator of Galaxies.dev, and today we have some really exciting topics to dive in. There's some news from the Expo React Native ecosystem, I have some tiny wins to share, and there's quite some interesting news in the general ecosystem and then what I call trending in technology that we should talk about. So let's get started with the first topic of the day, which is the React Native Radar. Last week, in the last podcast episode, we already talked about Expo SDK 53, which was released about like 2 or 3 weeks ago at this point. By the way, I'm still having some issues upgrading my applications because of like dependency stuff. So if you're stuck in that, you're not alone. But what I wanted to pick up on is that Expo Router version 5 was actually a release. It was, I don't know, it was like kind of strange because in the Expo SDK 53 release notes, I said Expo Router had like 5 bullet points. And then a day or two later, there was a new post on the Expo blog about Expo Router version 5 and an introduction from Evan to all the new things. So what's new in Expo Router version 5? Of course, it works pretty much seamlessly in your application. There's no real breaking change. It's not like one of those major releases. They're just some really cool additions. Especially the improved error logging is something I hinted at before, which you also get with the owner stack of React 19.1. Then you can now have API routes in production. I think that kind of worked before mostly, but you can now also have React server functions in production. Previously, what they call React server function, what some of us might know as React server components. So React server components is pretty much a React server function that streams back a component to the client. So that kind of that protocol is, I think, called React server components, that whole construct. Now, with EAS hosting, it is finally possible to not only host our API routes, but also the React server functions in beta on the Expo servers. This is pretty cool because I think this moves us closer to everyone finally using React server components or React server functions with React Native. And I definitely want to dive deeper into that topic very, very soon. On top of that, some cool updates, some enhancements. So React 19, that's not really related too much to Expo Router, but more to like Expo in general and the SDK, I think. Some linting updates. The React compiler is super helpful. We talked about this like 2 weeks before when I mentioned that there's a great post about performance, which also recommended to use the React compiler to see what's going on in your app. The probably biggest change is regarding authentication flows and app authentication redirects. I've used redirects or the redirect component specifically from Expo Router before, so I don't think it's completely new. But the whole logic of having a protected stack group in your application is sort of new because previously you kind of had to structure this with layouts and check, okay, is the user authenticated? Then let's display this or that. And there was some like ugliness to it. And I think with this new syntax where you can have stack.protected and a guard function, this will make it a whole lot easier to build authentication flows. And it's the reason why I'm working on a new course for Galaxies that goes into details of Expo Router version 5, everything related to authentication and also server functions. There's a bit about resetting navigation state, server redirects, using an anchor route, just some like small improvements. Also, I've previously shown how to use, for example, on the Expo Router link component, the prefetch, I think it's called prefetch, which pretty much prefetches the next component in the background already, so it opens up faster once you navigate there. Cool things, honestly. Expo also had a live stream recently with Mark Lawler, who's also working on Native Wind. So definitely check that out on the Expo channel if you want to dive deeper into this. So Expo Router version 5, again, just an enhancement of what we already have. Not really any breaking changes, but a lot of improvements and preparing us to finally use RSC in production in our React Native applications. There are 2 other news I want to share. So the one is that I found on X, actually a tweet where Bartolomé, it's hard to pronounce, shared an example of using shared element transitions with reanimated in the new architecture. Yeah, finally. I was always curious why it wasn't working, and I think it was always because it's the new architecture, and now it looks like they're working on this. So we're gonna soon hopefully have an implementation for shared element transitions. If you don't know shared element transitions, it's pretty much when you press like on a card, and then the card has an image, and then the image scales up to the full screen and you're on the next page, like the effect when you're on iOS, press a card to the App Store and it opens up in full screen. That's a shared element transition, and it's coming soon. The other big news was around William Candillon and Skia. So William gave another of his famous presentations. Honestly, you just have to watch the video on YouTube. It's 37 minutes because it introduces a lot of people using stuff, a lot of new packages like Type GPU, really interesting things, and it's all pretty much like an Apple presentation, so it's really fun to watch. Now, what's going on here? Skia has been around for React Native for a while, but they are working on bringing WebGPU to React Native. With WebGPU, you get access to GPU and you get access to the best underlying things. Honestly, this is tiny bit beyond what I understand, but I think as far as I understand, it gives you access to things like Vulkan or Metal, and you can just get this sort of absolute native performance in your application. By bringing in another package called Type GPU, I think Software Mention made that package, we will also have a lot cleaner interface to writing the code here for, because like all these shaders and the stuff that's going on, it's really wild and I sometimes don't really get it. But with Type GPU, we will have TypeScript access to that stuff, or a TypeScript interface. Then we will also have Three.js in our application, which honestly allows us to create really amazing things. There's a video, or in William's announcement, called Game On. There's someone from Shopify showing what they did last year. It's honestly really, really great what's going on. Check out the video. Again, React Native Skia just keeps getting better. They didn't introduce any new features, but they made Skia a lot faster, more performant. I think that is great. This is something many packages should probably aim for over the next time, because people don't really like all these updates and breaking changes. So if you have 0 new features, that can actually be a really great thing. I'm actually excited about what's possible with React Native Skia, WebGPU, and Three.js and the technologies here. I just sometimes have a hard time figuring out the right entry point to this, because when I watch some of William's videos, he's great at explaining the stuff and the things he does are incredible, but it looks like writing a completely different language. The stuff, not only the math that's going on, but also everything else. It's not like you need a touchable opacity, a text, and a horizontal scroll view. Really, there are just so many different things that I'm sometimes kind of lost. But it doesn't mean I can pick that up at some point, and it's good to know that we get really the best part of this on React Native. I even found a tweet the other day where someone said, React Native is kind of just taking the good parts of Flutter and implementing them, which is Skia, in the right places. So not just drawing the whole application with Skia, but just using it in the right amount. And I think that's amazing. So thanks, William. Watch that video. All the links mentioned before will be in the show notes. As every week, it's also time to share some tiny wins. So last week I actually started an experiment which probably is still active once you hear this episode. That experiment is a lifetime price for Galaxies. Now, the lifetime price for Galaxies is of course higher than the previous monthly subscription price. But why did I change this? Well, if I look at my numbers, and this is now a bit more technical stuff here for like solopreneurs and stuff, I can see that many people join only for a handful of months. And it is actually so much going on in Galaxies. We have like 15 plus courses. We have a huge Zero to Hero mission. I'm planning new courses and a new mission as well. So that whole monthly pricing doesn't really make any sense. I see most other creators going for a one-time purchase as well. And people said this to me as well as a feedback. They don't like subscriptions. So I've introduced a lifetime plan, or a one-time payment, however you want to call it, which is very typical for online courses. If you purchase any React course from Kenzie Dodds, the TypeScript Wizard, anything today, it's usually a one-time payment for the whole course. And so I'm bringing in that concept to Galaxies as well, which gives you access with one payment to everything we have, plus the upcoming content in the future, which is actually a lot. So you're getting a lot of value for that price. And my tiny win is that I implemented that quite fast as an experiment. And today, to the recording day, I already made 2 sales. Doesn't sound a whole lot, but it actually means that people like this pricing and they're okay with this. So I think I will keep it for the moment. I will keep an eye on how this works. Maybe something changes in the future. I don't know, but right now this is what it is. On top of that, tiny win number 2 this week is actually a feedback, and I got 2 great feedbacks. So you might ask, Simon, feedback, is that really a tiny win? Yeah, it is, because if I'm usually creating stuff, I rarely get feedback. I see some comments on our YouTube videos, which are like mixed. I don't know. Sometimes it's good, but most of the time it's meh. It's like first, second, or something like that. But the feedback I got this week, number 1, was from someone who is using my Matrix Manager application. And that person, I think it was male, he replied about some features that he think would be great. I replied and said, okay, yes, we'll implement this in the next version. And then I also followed up, is there anything else you want to see? And he actually gave me some really cool ideas in how I can build out that application. So I'm really fired up and inspired to build out that app. And at the same time, I also got a great feedback from Rob in the Galaxies.dev podcast channel on Discord. Rob has been following me for a long time, and that's why I put a lot of value or importance on feedback like this. And Rob pointed out that in the last episode I had a little blog where I said, hey, check out Galaxies, come to Galaxies, whatever I said in that blog. I don't remember anymore. But he said that the podcast, it feels out of place in there pretty much. And I definitely agree to that. I see Rob's point. And the most common entry point for people to discover me, to come to Galaxies, is through my YouTube videos. Pretty much nobody is discovering me through podcasts. Like, who is looking in Apple Podcasts for React Native because they want to learn React Native? It's always people who either know me, they know I have a podcast, or they're like tech nerds, I don't know, I want to learn more about React Native. And therefore, the podcast is not a discovery channel and not a marketing platform. I think I understood this now. Thanks for the feedback, Rob. I will try to put out the value in this podcast, the new packages, the behind the scenes, just like this in the podcast, the stories from my life. And I think that will serve the podcast a whole lot better. And if you got anything, you can always let me know on X, in the Discord server, or you can write a review on Apple Podcasts. That also helps me a whole lot, especially if you give 5 stars. And by the way, the last tiny win for this week myself is that I had a swimming workout. You know, I'm training for a triathlon, which is at this point like 5 weeks out. And it was the first time I didn't hate the swimming entirely. I was able to front crawl for, 200 meters without dying, which is pretty good because in a triathlon, it's just a sprint distance. It's 500 meters of swimming. I can, of course, swim different styles, but crawl is usually the fastest if you can do it. But I usually run out of air or my technique just sucks. So having a session where I actually felt the water and didn't feel too bad was really a huge win for me this week. Alright, some quick build in public updates before we get into the last section, which is trending in technology, and we have to talk about a couple of things. So, build in public, what I'm currently working on, I have finally finished the big AI caption editor video. It's now about editing and putting everything together, which is great because A, it is always a good feeling to have a project mostly finished, and B, since I decided to create less videos, it means over the next couple of weeks I have some freedom. And honestly, I didn't have that freedom for a very, very long time. So I am really excited about diving into new projects. I want to dive into the Matrix Manager with the feedback I got from that one customer. I want to start a new application with a friend, which is around migraine. So we had that idea for quite some time, and I think we finally want to take some action on this. Then I'm working on this invoice manager application. I already feel bad because I couldn't support my friend working on that. But now that I'm finished, I will be able to finally dive into that project as well. And finally, I also want to do new courses for Galaxies once again. So as I said, I want to do a course on authentication flows and everything that's new with Expo Router version 5. And at the same time, I'm planning a big new mission, sort of like the Zero to Hero mission. But this time it's gonna be build an entire application, and I think I will use a Supabase backend and just show and help people to create applications from start to end. So that one will probably require some knowledge, but it could be a good continuation of where we left off with Zero to Hero, because Zero to Hero teaches you all the basics of React Native that you need in 7 different modules. And once you're at the end, I already had someone ask, okay, what should I do when I'm finished? And I think this new course, I have no title for it yet, just built something with Supabase, will probably be the continuation of Zero to Hero. If you have a good idea, naming idea, tweet me on X or let me know in the Discord server. I'm absolutely open for recommendations. Let's wrap it up with some trending news from the technology world. The first one is from me. Yeah, I actually had a successful tweet. That happens very rarely. But this one, wow, I haven't checked. This one got 71 comments, 52 reposts, 1.3k likes, and 581 bookmarks. What the heck? Simon must have said something really great in this one. Yeah, you're imagining at home, right? Apparently, I just shared my Expo folder structure. It's so funny, like, I didn't have the intention to like make anything viral. I just found that actually looks pretty good, my folder structure. What do you think? But doing something like this is probably like posting dark mode, light mode, tabs versus spaces. It just enrages every developer, and everyone has an opinion about this. So I will put the link to the tweet in the show notes. I just had a new folder structure. Previously, I just used the app folder, but now I saw that with Expo Router, you can also have a source folder and then app in there, and next to it, I put like assets, components, constant, hooks, mocks, store, types, utils. It's a pretty okay-ish setup for small and medium-sized projects. Many people pointed out, oh, you should do by feature, oh, you should do by this. If you look through the comments, you're gonna find a lot of images and setups from people who say they either hate it, they like it. Take it what you want, but if you want to go viral on X, just share your setup of your like file or structure or something. Anyway, second news. Last week we talked about the Apple Commission Gate. You know, in the United States, you can now have external payment links, which opens websites, and you don't have to pay the 30% Apple commissions. Now, just prior to this recording, I found a tweet, someone tagged me, where someone shared an image. Now, there is a little disclaimer, I think. I think this is not from the United States. However, I still want to bring it up because I think it's relevant. In that image, there is an application called Instacart, and there is a warning on the App Store page which says, this app does not support the App Store's private and secure payment system. It uses external purchases with a red exclamation mark. Now, this warning will definitely shock some people. Probably not us developers, but as we said before, we're just like a tiny fraction of the target audience of applications, and I wouldn't buy most applications, and many people actually do buy applications. So a warning like this could scare off many people. If like my mom would see this, or my dad, they're like, I don't know if I want to do this. So this is really interesting. Now, the disclaimer, this is from the EU, I think. Some people said this below the picture, so it's not the United States. However, I expected that Apple will take some actions based on this. I don't know how they want to downgrade your app's ASO. Maybe they're going to display a banner in the App Store. I don't know what they will do, but after they lost this lawsuit, they will definitely take some action, because they will not just give away the 30% cut of their money. On top of that, so we don't know anything about that yet. Some people said that actually the Apple purchase thing is a good thing. Someone said External purchases just means Adobe-style dark patterns and bullshit cancellation fees. From a consumer standpoint, Apple's centrally managed spot for all subscriptions natively integrated into the OS is super nice. And that person shared a screenshot from like the subscriptions on the iOS or App Store. Honestly, I can see the point of this user. I kind of like that screen as well, where I see, okay, I have 5 subscriptions, I can manage them, I can cancel them. For all the things I've subscribed to on the web, I kind of lost track. I sometimes get emails with invoices from services that I apparently subscribe to. But yeah, you could do different things outside of the App Store, and Apple really tries to protect you. The 30% cut isn't quite nice, but that's just how they play, that's the rules. I don't know, my point of view on this isn't yet finished. I like that we have the freedom to do it on the web. I don't know if I will actually implement it right now. But with that being said, I will keep you up on the commissions gate whenever something happens here in the future. Finally, let's talk about a person called Khalid Wasame. I saw the tweet from Khalid a couple of days ago, and he said, if I wasn't so invested in Flutter, I would go all in on React Native. Take that as you will. And just today, he also followed up with a video, I would pick React Native over Flutter if I could start over. He brings up some interesting points, things I probably also said before, that Google is killing the stuff, they laid off Flutter team. You might know that in the past, or in the last year or earlier this year, Flutter was forked. There's just a lot of strange things going on in Flutter land. And meanwhile, React Native is just crushing it. They're just going forward. We get React Server components, the latest versions, better debugging, API routes. All the cool things are coming. Expo builds are getting faster and cheaper. We got EAS hosting. It's just continually improving on every area while Flutter is just trotting along. On top of that, also, Kali brought up that if you're in the United States, you have a hard time finding Flutter jobs. Yes, there will be Flutter jobs. There will probably also be some Angular jobs and some Vue.js jobs. Well, there will be probably at least even more Vue.js and Angular than Flutter jobs. But you will see many more React Native jobs compared to Flutter. This can be different from country to country. I know people from India who say Flutter is really big here in India for a reason. Google is pushing it. There are many Android devices. React Native isn't as great on Android, so Flutter is naturally a bit more preferred in those countries. However, I'm biased, of course, regarding React Native, regarding Galaxies and everything that I put out, but hearing this from someone who's in the Flutter community, and I know other people, Luke Pighetti, he's also regularly tweeting good stuff about React Native lately. It just makes me feel quite good about React Native at this point. Yeah, I had videos where people complain about React Native, but you're gonna find people that complain about technology no matter what. You could have the perfect technology. There will also be haters about Swift UI and it's good or bad. So it's hard to find the real value of the information in there. And so if someone from the other team says that, quote unquote, says that React Native is great, I feel quite good about this and I like this. I can also see good points in Flutter, all the UI components you get out of the box. If you're a solo developer, you can really quickly piece something together. But then again, Dart and Flutter is pretty much nowhere else used besides Dart and in Flutter. So it's nothing really valuable for your career, whereas React and React Native is a whole lot more valuable. So before we turn this into a big React and React Native marketing show, let's cut it off. Flutter, more meh than well right now, and React Native definitely on the upswing with React Native 79, Expo 53, and Expo Router version 5. So I hope you enjoyed today's podcast without big marketing, but with great news and behind the scenes. As always, hit me up on X if you got any feedback or questions, and I will catch you in the next one. Thanks for joining today's episode. My goal is to share interesting stories and insights into the world of React Native development. If you enjoy this show, please subscribe to the show on YouTube, Apple, or Spotify. And on Spotify and Apple, you can leave up to a 5-star review. Because podcasts, and especially niche podcasts like this, are hard to find, subscribing and leaving a review does help me a lot. On top of that, Check out my React Native courses on galaxies.dev that cover a variety of topics from getting started to building and publishing your mobile app. Finally, you can share today's episode with a friend or colleague who would enjoy the topic of the show. If you have any questions or ideas for future episodes, find me on X or leave a comment on YouTube. And last but not least, thank you for listening and happy coding, Simon.